Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series. For a special episode supported by EE and Hope United. Today I'm joined by Sophie from the Highbury Squad. How are you doing, Sophie? You good, you well?
I'm very well, thank you, Tom. Hope you're well too. Hope all your listeners are also in fine form.
Absolutely, indeed. We hope that you are. I hope that you're enjoying the content on the channel. Today's episode is slightly different. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, we're doing this in conjunction with EE's Hope United, which is a fantastic cause which looks specifically at trying to tackle online abuse of all different types of forms. Today, EE have reached out after watching a number of shows that we do. They know and have seen how passionate as a community we are at tackling different types of online abuse, no matter what type that it is. And in today's show, we're here to talk rather seriously about homophobic abuse that we see online. In recent days, we covered the topic of the gay Gooners post that was really virulently attacked and abused by plenty of homophobic responses. And in combination, EE and Hope United, we're going to be talking a lot about what can be done to try and solve these problems, what you can do as well to help tackle these issues, and also some of our own experiences that we have seen. Now, as a straight guy, I have never had to experience any attacks on my sexuality. And so therefore, it was the most appropriate thing for me to be joined by someone who I know has unfortunately had to go through these horrible instances. And I thought, of course, let's be joined by one of my closest friends on the platform, Sophie. And Soph, I'm very glad that you've agreed to jump on and have a chat with me about this topic, because I know it's something that you care about deeply and have had to obviously deal with throughout your life. So I kind of want to kick off just by, if people aren't aware of a bit of your background in this area, and also perhaps some of the experiences that you yourself have had to deal with.
Yeah, I started talking football many, many years ago, which was tough as a woman. And then kind of it evolves into, when people find out about your sexuality, it kind of adds a totally other layer to trying to break through and talk about football. And so it's been tough. It's been a very tough road, but it's also been a very rewarding road. And what I hope is by the end of this particular episode is that people feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that there are solutions. But yeah, initially, Tom, it was really tough. I found interestingly too that when I moved to the US and was talking about football, I think because of the US women's national team, and because of the more openness here in the women's game, which I think has spread also beautifully to the women's game in England and in Europe as well, that it was a little bit friendlier. And I also found that having the support of men like you, the straight white guy, is exceptionally important for those conversations to be open and for us to kind of evolve and move forward. And as well as being part of a group that means something to you where you can belong, having the support of people already in the game and who are really trying to move the conversation forward is fundamental as well. So I hope there are people out there that have those supporters for them, because that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important that we try and talk about these topics specifically. And I don't make any bones about the fact that when I talk about these things, I come from a position of I've never had to experience any kind of discrimination in my entire life, which is just a unconscious privilege that you have, that you don't want to exist, because no one should have to go through
Hmm.
any type of abuse. But yeah, when you kind of have been online, and I mean, obviously, I've seen that you've retweeted a lot of the gay Gooners posts as they
Yep.
celebrate a lot of individuals who have not only just kind of supported Arsenal, but have welcomed gay Gooners into their life as a way of reattaching themselves. I've seen a number of stories that talk about how the movement has enabled them to basically reconnect with the club, because they just didn't feel welcomed prior to that, and they felt
Mhm.
as though they were going to get abuse or bullied, or that if that happened, they wouldn't get the support that they absolutely needed in those moments. What have you experienced recently in conjunction with this?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things that have happened to me recently. So, number one is the Gay Gooners. I've written back to every single member that was highlighted and retweeted everything that they've kind of posted to show support, knowing that I've been one of those people that didn't feel like they had a place, and when they found a place, it was like, Christmas gift. And I don't know if people realize just how important that is when you find a group that you can relate to, and that I received a little bit of vitriol for that. And I saw the messages, and for Arsenal Football Club to have to put out a statement based around those horrible messages that the Gay Gooners group, which, by the way, Stuart Selby, who founded it 10 years ago, celebrating people, is an amazing thing, isn't it? To celebrate people who finally feel like they belong somewhere and belong to their team again. So that was really tough to see when you think that we've moved forward. And I did an interview as well around the World Cup, and that received some backlash. And I always say in these instances, you want to have an audience that is inclusive of everybody. And so it's worth kind of living your truth and supporting people, because the likes are important in real life. You know what I mean? I think people get obsessed with followers and losing and subscribers, but sometimes you just have to do and say the right thing and support people the right way. And Gay Gooners does that. The club has done that. And it looks like, what Hope United are trying to do as well underlines that, Tom.
Absolutely. Speaking of Hope United, I think it's important to go through some of their key points. They say that online homophobia is rightly cannot go unchecked, particularly in football, and they've set out to offer everyone the digital skills they're required to call it out online whenever and wherever they see it. And I think that what's great about this is it's all stuff that most of us, I'd say, already know how to do, and it's kind of just pushing that rhetoric forward to say we're all able to mute someone or block someone or report what we see online, but sometimes we see it and we just skip by it, or
Mm.
we just choose to ignore it. For some people, that's a way of coping with it, and I can understand why they might not want to have to read some vitriolic things. But to make these changes, we're going to have to try and do more. And so we're hoping that this initiative encourages more people to call out the homophobic abuse that they see online on social media. You can visit the Hope United website to find out plenty more information on that. But they hope to encourage allyship regardless of sexual orientation or background, setting out to demonstrate the positive impact that anyone can have by calling out online homophobia. And
Mm.
obviously, I've just mentioned a few strategies there, Sophie, that people can do, which is obviously is just simply mute or block anyone
Mhm.
that you see online doing that. We know that the Arsenal account put out a statement, as you've already alluded to, mentioned that they had to block certain accounts, loads of different accounts, for really showing unfortunate, distasteful comments towards the support being shown to the Gay Gooners and the community in the LGBTQ plus arena. And I think that it's. Do you find it sometimes hard to not engage and to respond to people? I often try and have conversations with people, but unfortunately, there are times where, especially if, and I suppose I'm asking you because I'm sure you've experienced it,
Mhm.
where hitting that mute or block button is probably an effective and immediate strategy to solve it.
Yeah. Sometimes you ask yourself, is this the mountain I want to die on today? Right.
Mm,
And because you could be fighting people all day long, and it happens.
yeah,
I would say that I probably get an abusive message every other day, and it could go from, the old school women kitchen sink to, my support of the gay community. And
yeah,
um, you have to respond to those things. Otherwise, nothing would ever change. So if you don't respond to it, then people are just enabled to continue with that type of behavior. So I do think it really is important to say something, because education is very important. And I'm not. This is no disrespect to people who are. I think people just want to be bullies sometimes, and keyboard warriors are there. And we've seen it with racism, Tom. Right? Racism in stadiums now, fans reporting on their own fans, which is needed. And it's happening online too now. It's so easy, isn't it, to just bully someone, say something evil, say something mean, and not be accountable for it. But now what we're seeing is a lot more policing from who? From people like me and you and fellow fans who won't stand for that type of behavior. If you're not into the discussion, there's plenty of other things that I'm sure that you love and are passionate about and you can follow. There's no need to be mean and get involved just to be mean. So, yeah, I think, you know, for me personally, I have to say something. And I especially have to say something, Tom, if it's a young journalist or a young media person or a young fan or someone who's just trying to make their way in life, whether they're, you know, they love football, whether they want to be a budding journalist like you, a broadcaster, you know, like us. And I think it's important to stand up for people that maybe don't have a stronger voice as others. So that's where I draw the line, especially in definitely wanting to say something. Say it, see it, right? See it, say it.
Yeah, I mean, and for those that might be questioning that maybe they've never seen this and they're watching the show going, "I've never seen anything like this. Why do we feel that this is a need to kind of talk about this?" Well, Hope United have very kindly provided the evidence as to why we're talking about this. Almost three quarters, 71% of Brits agree that homophobia is a problem in football, which rises to 88% amongst the LGBTQ plus respondents. 4 in 5 of us feel uncomfortable hearing homophobic hate. I mean, I'd hope that we'd be able to get that up to 5 in 5 of us feeling uncomfortable hearing hate in
Right.
this context. Nearly half, 40%, believe that social media exacerbates the issue. For me, I think that's low. You know, I think social media is a vessel for this type, and it's a conduit for this type of
Mm-hmm.
um, abuse. And I always have been saying online that social media companies, in my opinion, need to do more to tackle these issues, to make people who are speaking these words held accountable for those actions. A quarter of those who were surveyed by Hope United have witnessed online homophobia hate firsthand in the past 2 years, which is,
Wow.
again, startling. And the wider UK population is less likely to take action than respondents in the LGBTQ plus community, which, you know, makes sense in the sense of like, what we're trying to change here today is more people that
Mm-hmm.
aren't necessarily respondents from the LGBTQ plus community. We also need to be doing more. And I certainly have been reading through kind of the information that we've just talked about there, and it making you that much more aware. Even though I feel as though we talk about it regularly on the channel, like making more people aware of this so that they can call it out is tough. And Sophie, it's scary to have to do that in person. Let's make no bones about this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's if you're in a stadium and you see one of your own supporters, someone who you know, when you enter that stadium as an Arsenal fan, you feel like you're going in there with a family. You know, a family that you don't necessarily know everybody, but you're all wearing red and white. You're all supporting the same team.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see homophobia, racism, sexism, in within your own kind of family fan base, that's such a hard kind of obstacle to take a stand, to step up and do it. But why is it so important that we do that?
Otherwise, nothing will be done, and people can hide and get away with it. And you labeled a few things there, all of the groups, right? I mean, we saw someone kick our goalkeeper and try and run out of the stadium and get away with it. Luckily, you know, there are cameras everywhere and these people can get found out. And it's the same thing with yelling abuse at a player that you think might be funny and old school, but it's actually not. And I think we're seeing more and more. And we're seeing more and more, Tom, of not only why is it important that we as fans stick together and we dig out, you know, the bad behavior, but I think what we're seeing too is this alignment of groups across teams that are huge rivals. You're seeing Arsenal, who supported something recently that happened with Son. They supported the Lily White group. We're seeing the same thing with Manchester United. And the Arsenal and other groups as well. So we need to back up our own group, our own people. You know, the gay Gooners are a great bunch of human beings who love the club as much as you do, and they deserve to be at every game, and they deserve to have their area where they hang out and where they get together and greet each other and watch the game then and enjoy being an Arsenal fan. And if we don't back each other up by reporting what we see in the stadium, and we're letting other clubs do it for us, then we failed, haven't we, as a group ourselves? So that's what I like to see is that you back up your own fans by doing the right thing, whether that's in stadium or online.
And look, there are the right ways of course, going about calling out in stadiums. Like, we're not asking you to go up to the person that you've seen and start, you know,
A fight.
confronting
Yeah,
them. Yeah, exactly. That's not what we're asking. But there are
exactly.
plenty of people in the ground with the responsibility that are working there, stewards, that you can speak to, that you can point people out to. And you don't even need to, you can make sure that you do it anonymously if you want to do it
Correct.
that way. You don't have to attach yourself to that. You can just make somebody aware of it. As we've just said there are cameras everywhere in the stadium, and people do get prosecuted. Unfortunately, not enough of those that are found to have done it. But we are, hopefully, by making more people aware and by highlighting this more and reporting it more, we can see change happen. Because for me,
Exactly.
education is the most important thing in this. It's not about it's not for me about going in there and getting people chucked out. I'd much rather see that person educated to know why what they've said is wrong, and why it's not okay to say those words
Right.
about something that somebody cannot control. And I think that that's the key part here, is that education is always going to be key. And so maybe you'll listen to this show and maybe it's wound you up a bit. Maybe you're frustrated that we're talking about this. Well, don't get angry or unfollow or block us or whatever first, because I invite you, and I'm sure Sophie does as well, to reach out to us if you have a problem about this topic that we're talking about. We're very open to hear your concerns, and perhaps in a conversation it might change your view of things once you hear the other side of the story, when you have that open mind, as I always kind of encourage when we're talking about lots of different footballing topics, to have an open mind
Hmm.
to be able to change it. Because there's, as I say, there's no point having a mind if you're not willing to change it. So reach out
Exactly.
to us. Talk to us. We're both available. We're both free. In our DMs are open. I believe yours are, Sophie, unless you've locked them down as well. Have you not?
I'm so terrible at technology, but if it isn't, you can always email the highbury@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about this subject. And you're right, Tom. You and I have talked a lot about, I know you are not a cancel culture guy, and I'm not a cancel culture person. And I just think sometimes by removing somebody from the conversation means one less person is educated about the subject. I have so many things I need to learn about different things that I might have an opinion on. And I'm a sponge by nature. So I love to learn and read. And there's been times where I've been wrong about things, and I've kind of, you know, learned from that and been educated about it. And like you said, it's something simple. Like you and I have gone toe to toe on talking about football, about stuff, and you're like, show me this, and when did they, and that's, and I'm like, he's kind of okay, fine. Tom wants, so we have a conversation and we move the needle forward. I learn something from you, you learn something from me, and it's the same thing on this subject or any given subject. No person, whatever group they belong to or whatever they identify as in their life, should be abused when they go to an Arsenal game, ever. No matter what you believe in, what color your skin is, what your sexuality is, that there's no room for that. As Tom said, you step into that stadium, it's about the beautiful game and hanging out with your fellow fans. And I think that we need to make sure that we talk versus just remove people from a scenario or situation that's going to kind of help them grow and learn from.
Absolutely. Just to kind of, as we round towards the end of this show, if you are interested in learning more about this, you can go to the EE Hope United website, just by going to eehopeunited.co.uk. Our very own Aaron Ramsdale is a part of their Hope United team as well, and you
Oh, it's
can
lovely.
watch the. Yeah, it is fantastic. We hope more and more people get involved. You can reach out to them, you can talk to them, and if you've been affected in any way by any of the topics that we've talked about, and as I said, first of all, please feel free to reach out to either of us to discuss the topics. But also, if if you're in a lonely place for whatever reason and this video has really kind of triggered anything for you, there are certainly places out there that you can go to get help. So please, we encourage you to go and do that. But just know that we are here to support as well, and we're here to support everybody so that we can make the Arsenal fan base as welcoming and as communal as feasibly possible for everybody. As Sophie said, no matter what your background is. Sophie, any final thoughts on today's show?
No, I just wanted to say thanks for inviting me for the conversation. Thanks to groups like Hope United that continue to be positive and try to help people out there. It's so important. Thanks to you for taking this on. It's not easy. I know firsthand it's not easy. And you know firsthand from a different eye set why it isn't easy. And I always appreciate you, Tom, putting yourself out there and tackling different subjects on your channel. And I think it's really, really important. So thanks to you for doing this and for inviting me to be part of it. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure's all mine. Soph. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I do want to make this clear that EE reached out with the opportunity for me to talk about this. This isn't a sponsorship in any way. I'm not being paid to talk about this. They purely offered if I would like to get involved. And as soon as they offered, I jumped at the chance. So I do want to make that absolutely clear for anyone that might have been thinking there was any kind of ulterior motive. There certainly isn't. And this is a really, really key topic that, as you know, for those that have been long-time listeners of the channel, no, as Sophie just said there, that I try and tackle these topics head first and try to get clued up and educated by getting people certainly much more in the know than I am, hence why Sophie is here today. But you can find Sophie, as she said, on the Highbury squad, so make sure you go and give her a follow, a listen, a subscribe over there. A massive thank you again, Sophie, for coming on. Pleasure.
Thanks, Tom.
You can find, obviously, ourselves at the Gooner Talk TV on social media, where the DMs, as I've mentioned a few times already, are indeed open. And as I've mentioned already, you go to eehopeunited.co.uk to get more information about everything that we've discussed in today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you again very, very soon. Have a fantastic day. Stay safe, stay well. And as always, up the Arsenal.